As much as President Trump would like this to go away, this Epstein controversy does not appear to be doing so. And giving the matter more urgency is the dissatisfaction from the American public. According to a new poll out today, more than 6 in 10 voters disapprove of the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein investigation. Republicans in particular are split. 40% approve, 36% disapprove. Let's get reaction now from NewsNation political editor Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday. Chris, great to have you here. So Trump is accusing Democrats of stoking this conspiracy, but it was President Trump himself who said for years there was a secret file that the government was covering up. His own son, Don Jr., tweeted out during the campaign, "Show us the Epstein files now. Why are they protecting this scumbag?"
The president was careful around the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. He was notably careful for a guy who said that Ted Cruz's father maybe was part of killing JFK,
right.
For somebody who said Barack Obama was a secret Kenyan, for a person who, with political rivals and in sensitive situations, who said Joe Scarborough maybe had something to do with the death of an intern. Donald Trump showed restraint around the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and it was because, I assume, he and Epstein were running buddies back in the day, right? In the 90s in Palm Beach and Manhattan. They were men about town. They were friends. They ran in the same circles. And Trump didn't want to get too close. And we remember when Maxwell was pleading guilty and going to prison, they asked the president at the time, "Well, what do you think about that?" And he said, "Well, I wish her well." And he stepped back. These were all signals to the MAGA universe. We're not doing this one, guys, right? This isn't one for us. This isn't like Hillary Clinton's servers. This is one that we're going to tread lightly around. And where he finds himself now, you know, when I asked Jim Jordan about this, Jim Jordan was non-committal about whether he believed the Biden administration's findings that corroborated what the first Trump administration said. But I don't think he believed the Biden administration. I don't think Jim Jordan took the Biden administration's word for what happened here. So when the president tells, whether it's Jim Jordan or whomever, stop talking about this, don't ask about this, I think he's asking the impossible.
Well, it's interesting, though. Jim Jordan told you, "I'm going to call Pam Bondi here, and she's going to answer every single question about this," which is essentially what should happen if you want this to go away. I mean, the only way at this point to handle this is to release everything you can and answer every single question everyone has.
Well, there were two realities. There were two possible realities. Reality one was the Occam's razor answer was that whether it was Donald Trump Jr. or Pam Bondi or Kash Patel or whomever, that they had exaggerated what was going on. They had overhyped and overblown the conspiracy for electoral purpose, that it was good. You could score points on Democrats and say bad stuff about the Clintons and do this stuff. And then you get in office and you say, well, womp womp. Sorry, guys, it's not actually that way. And what can we say? Sorry, we'll get them next time. There's that version. And what Democrats are doing about that is very cynical, right? Because they believe what the Biden administration said. They believe that there's no there there. They just want to force Republicans to say it. They want them to say that it was a scam. The other reality is that there is something being covered up and there is something being hidden. The president is trying to offer a third way out for Republicans, which is there is a cover-up, but it's a virtuous cover-up. We're preventing fake things from the Democrats, from the bad people, from coming out because it'll hurt people. And if we think back to the infamous interview that the then candidate, now president, did when he was asked, will you release the files from the Kennedy assassination? Will you release the files on the... Yes, yes, yes. Epstein. Well, there's fake stuff in there, and it could hurt people a great deal.
Right,
so
but members
this is
of his
where
cabinet,
the president finds himself now.
Right, but members of his own cabinet were saying quite the opposite. I'm going to release those files. There's a secret file. He didn't kill himself. And now find themselves in the position of saying what the Biden administration is correct. He did, in fact, commit suicide. Or they're covering.
Or they can say what the president said, which is, Thank goodness that we've stopped the release of these files because it contained fraudulent information planted by the deep state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not releasing it, but we're doing a good, our lack of transparency is virtuous lack of transparency. I don't know if that washes, but it may be enough, it may be a narrow enough space where enough of the folks in the cabinet can hide.
So here's what Politico writes today, quote, "This blunder was entirely self-inflicted and that the most senior law enforcement officials in the country have been evasive, defensive, and intemperate in their handling of the fallout." Ardent Trump supporters like Laura Loomer are warning today that the meltdown threatens to consume Trump's presidency.
When you have, people are the worst, we're the worst. Because when you have a story that is about sex and power and fame and it's lurid, right? This is like something out of a novel. And when you have a story like this, it's very hard for people to let it go. And you can ask Bill Clinton, you can ask Warren G. Harding. We can go through a long list of presidents who, when sex becomes part of the story and it becomes this sort of lurid story, it's a lot more interesting than regular corruption, and it's very hard for people to let that go.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. President Trump said this afternoon that instead of Epstein, everybody should be focused on President Biden's use of the auto pen to sign many of the pardons he issued late in his presidency. Trump calls it the biggest scandal in American history. Congressional Republicans are, of course, investigating this. President Biden says, "I verbally approved all these pardons," and somebody went and used the auto pen to actually sign the documents. What do you make of all that?
I'm troubled by the trend. Do you remember when Barack Obama had to disappoint Democrats in 2009 and said, "I'm not going to prosecute, we're not prosecuting Donald Rumsfeld. We're not going to prosecute Dick Cheney or Paul Wolfowitz or whomever for the Iraq invasion." They had their turn. They did what they thought was the best, but we're not going to relitigate that. We're going to move forward. And what we saw with the first Trump administration and certainly the Biden administration and now the next Trump administration is it's a self-licking ice cream cone. We just keep going back and back and back. And if they keep it up with, they will keep it up with Biden, and they keep doing it. When there's a Democratic president, they're going to go back and make people take the fifth and demand testimony about Donald Trump's state of mind when he was president. And was he mentally, how was his cognitive level when he was president? And did he ever say this? And did he ever say that? Bad things lie that way. When you get into relitigating and unpacking these former things, you don't really get to the truth very often, and what you end up doing is getting stuck in a hole.
Yeah. All right, Chris Stirewalt, something tells me we're not going to hear the end of either the Ida Pen or Jeffrey Epstein, so stay tuned, as they say. Thanks, Chris. Oh, by the way, I noticed on stage today, you guys were giving out gift bags to all your guests. What was in the gift? What's the swag for all the lawmakers?
Well, it's just stacks of cash. It's just hundreds, just in a stack. But my question is for you, which is we could get all of these powerful people to come. We couldn't get Elizabeth Vargas. That's
Nobody
all I'm saying.
invited me. I would have been there in a nanosecond. I would have totally come down there.
Well, next time you're coming and we're going to do one of these together.
This tape lives forever, Chris Stirewalt. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.